Why parliamentary form of government? The framers of the Constitution chose the parliamentary form of government for India because they realized that the success of democracy depends on the participation of people in the governance of the country. In a vast country like India, it is not possible for all the citizens to participate in governance directly or individually. So, they would need to elect representatives who would act on their behalf. These representatives form the parliament. In a parliamentary form of government, since the executive is a member of the parliament can always keep a check on the powers of the executive. So, emergence of a dictator is unlikely. Many of the leaders who were involved in framing of the constitution were familiar with the working of the parliamentary system in Britain. They wanted a similar system for independent India. Features of the Parliament. The Parliament of India has two houses, the Lok Sabha and the Rajya Sabha. Lok Sabha. Composition. Lok Sabha is also known as the House of the People. It is the lower house of the Parliament. The members of the Lok Sabha are elected directly by the people through elections. The total number of members in the Parliament is 552. 530 members are elected by the people of different states and 20 members are elected by the people of the Union territories. The President can nominate 2 members from the Anglo-Indian community. The elections are held on the basis of universal adult franchise, which means all the citizens of the country above 18 years have the right to cast their votes. Qualifications of the members. Any citizen of India 25 years and above can contest the Lok Sabha elections. The person should not be mentally unsound or declared bankrupt. He or she must also not hold any office of profit. Tenure. The Lok Sabha serves a term of 5 years if due to some reason the government fails to enjoy the support of the majority of the members of Parliament. The President can dissolve the Parliament and call for fresh elections. Members of the Lok Sabha. For the purpose of elections, the country is divided into constituencies. From each constituency, 1 member for 1 seat in the Lok Sabha can be elected. For that 1 seat, candidates from different political parties contest. Candidates who do not belong to any political party or independent candidates can also contest. After elections, the candidate who gets the maximum number of votes in a constituency is declared elected from that constituency. The members are also known as MPs. The party that wins the maximum number of seats forms the government. Members belonging to other political parties form the opposition. When one single party does not win clear majority of seats in the Parliament, 2 or more parties come together to form a coalition government. The other parties who do not join the government form the opposition. The members of the Lok Sabha elect a speaker and a deputy speaker. They conduct all the proceedings of the Lok Sabha. All resolutions and bills have to be moved with the speaker's permission. The Rajya Sabha. The Rajya Sabha is also called the Council of States. It is the upper house of Parliament. Members of the Rajya Sabha are not directly elected by the people. There are 250 members, 12 members distinguished in the fields of art, literature, science and social services are nominated by the President. They are known as nominated members. Rest of the members are elected by the members of state legislatures and an electoral college of the Union territories. Tenure. The Rajya Sabha is a permanent body. It is never dissolved. The members serve a period of 6 years and 1/3 of the members retire every 2 years. The Vice President of India is the ex officio chairperson of the Rajya Sabha. The chairperson conducts the day-to-day affairs of the Rajya Sabha. The members also elect a deputy chairperson from among themselves. He or she takes care of the affairs of the House in the absence of the chairperson. Functions of the Parliament. Legislative function. The Parliament makes laws for the country. All laws are introduced as bills in the Parliament. After approval by both the houses, the bill becomes a law. The Parliament legislates on all subjects mentioned in the Union List, Concurrent List and the Residuary List. Financial function. The government imposes taxes on the people. Money collected through taxes are utilized to execute its welfare and development programs. If the government wants to introduce any new taxes, it has to get the approval of the Lok Sabha. The annual budget of the country is also presented before the Parliament by the Finance Minister of the country. The provisions of the budget can be implemented only after it has been approved by the two houses. Debates. All issues of national importance are debated in the Parliament. In the question hour, the opposition can question the government on any issue, and the government is bound to give a response or answer. These question-answer sessions and the debates are of utmost importance, and the people of the country get to know the reasons behind the decisions taken by the government. The people can also prevent misuse of power by the government. This also helps in generating public opinion. Constituent function. The Parliament can make changes or amendments to the Constitution. However, all the amendments are valid only after they have been approved by both houses of the Parliament. Electoral function. The Parliament performs some electoral functions like electing the President and the Vice President of India. Control of the executive. The Parliament keeps a check on the powers of the government. All the policies of the government have to be approved by it. If the Parliament is not happy with the working of the government, it can pass a no-confidence motion against the government. If the government fails to win the no-confidence motion, it cannot hold power. Fresh elections are held to elect a new government. The executive. The Union Executive consists of the President, the Vice President, the Prime Minister, and the Council of Ministers. The President. The head of the state is the President, but his or her powers are mostly ceremonial. So the President is also called the nominal head of the state. The Prime Minister and his Council of Ministers have the actual powers. The President is elected by members of an electoral college consisting of elected members of both the houses of Parliament and the legislative assemblies. Qualifications. To become the President of the country, a person must be a citizen of India, be 35 years or above, be eligible to become a member of the Parliament, not hold any office in the government, not be bankrupt or mentally unsound. The President serves for a period of 5 years. After 5 years, he or she can be re-elected or a new President gets elected. Powers of the President. Legislative powers. The President summons and prorogues or ends all the sessions of Parliament and addresses the first session. He or she nominates members to the Parliament. He or she can dissolve the Parliament on the advice of the Council of Ministers. Bills can become laws only after the President's assent. A money bill requires the President's permission before it can be introduced. The President calls a joint session of the two houses to solve any disagreement over a bill. Sometimes when the Parliament is not in session and it is important for the government to take crucial decisions or pass some crucial laws, in such cases the President has the power to issue special laws or ordinance. The ordinance has to be approved by Parliament once it begins its session. Executive powers. All executive powers of the state are vested in the President. The President appoints the Prime Minister, the Central Council of Ministers on the Prime Minister's advice, judges of the Supreme Court and High Courts, and governors of the states. The President is the Supreme Commander of our defense forces and appoints the chiefs of the Army, Navy, and the Air Force. He or she can pardon and reduce the sentence of a person sentenced by a court. Any death penalty can be altered or pardoned by him or her. He or she appoints the election commissioners and the controller and auditor general. He or she also looks after the administration of the union territories. When there is a failure of the constitutional machinery in a state, He or she can assume any of the functions of the government of that state. The President can proclaim a state of emergency in the country if he or she feels that the security of the country is threatened by war or external aggression or any armed rebellion. The Vice President. The Vice President is elected by an electoral college consisting of members of both the houses of Parliament. He or she must be a citizen of India, not less than 35 years of age, and eligible for election as a member of the Rajya Sabha. His or her term of office is 5 years. The Vice President is the ex officio chairman of the Rajya Sabha and acts as President when the President is unable to carry out his or her functions. The Prime Minister. The Prime Minister is the leader of the majority party which forms the government. His or her functions are as follows. He or she selects the members of the Council of Ministers for appointment by the President. He or she allocates portfolios to the ministers, that is, he or she distributes the charge of different departments of the government among his or her Council of Ministers. He or she presides over the meetings of the Council of Ministers. He or she coordinates the working of different ministries and is also the chief decision maker. He or she is the chairperson of the National Planning Commission, which is instrumental in the economic advancement of the country. He or she acts as the link between the President and the Council of Ministers. He or she communicates to the President about all decisions of the Council of Ministers relating to the administration of the country and proposals for legislation. The Prime Minister represents the country in high-level meetings and international organizations that require the attendance of the person who holds the highest government office. He or she also addresses the nation on various issues of national importance. The Prime Minister can use his or her discretion over disposal of two national funds. 1. The Prime Minister's National Relief Fund, and 2. The National Defence Fund, used to provide relief to the families of those killed in natural calamities such as floods, cyclones and earthquakes, and to victims of major accidents and riots. Council of Ministers. The Council of Ministers comprise Cabinet Ministers, Ministers of State with independent charge, Ministers of State who work with Cabinet Ministers, and Deputy Ministers. The real powers of the executive lie with the Prime Minister and his or her Council of Ministers. The executive works through different departments of the government called portfolios such as defence, finance, industry, agriculture and railways. The Prime Minister and the Council of Ministers work as a team on the principle of collective responsibility. They are jointly responsible to the Parliament for any decision taken by them. This means if one minister loses the faith of the opposition due to some reason, the opposition can initiate a no-confidence motion against the government, and if the government fails to defend the motion, the entire Council of Ministers will have to resign. The executive is also assisted by an administrative machinery called the bureaucracy or the civil service. They are employed by the government to assist the ministers in formulating policies and implementing them. The bureaucracy does not take any political positions on policy matters. They help in drafting the policies and in their implementation. Division of power between the centre and the state. India has a federal form of government. There is one government at the centre and one level of state governments. The Constitution has divided the subjects for lawmaking between the Parliament and the state legislatures. These subjects are mentioned in three lists: the Union List, the State List, and the Concurrent List. The Union List has subjects of national importance on which we need a uniform policy throughout the country. Defence, foreign affairs, banking, communication, and currency are included in the Union List. The State List contains subjects of state and local importance on which the state government makes laws. Police, trade, commerce, agriculture, and irrigation are included in the State List. The Concurrent List includes subjects of common interests to both union government and state government, such as education, forests, trade unions, marriage, adoption, and succession. In case there is a conflict on any law made by both the central and the state governments on a concurrent list subject, the law made by the central government prevails. Subjects which do not fall in any of these three lists, such as computer software, internet, and dual citizenship, are listed in residuary list.